podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the different places. So, how are we doing this fine evening? We have Miss Casey with us. How are you, dear?
Hey, I am doing well. Just trying to stay warm. If for those of you who are listening and don't know, North Carolina, especially in random parts of it, are expecting a winter storm, ice, snow mixture of all this whole weekend. So I'm just trying to gear up and hunker down.
I mean, you can't be paranoid and terrified like all these Southerners, are you, Casey?
I'm not paranoid about anything other than not having enough toilet paper, but I got some this morning, so I feel prepared.
Oh, we're an international podcast. People down here in the South get all freaked out about a little snow and ice. I think it's absolutely hysterical. I never get tired of making fun of these people being from West Virginia. But nevertheless, Mr. John Pope is hanging out with us. How are you, sir?
I'm doing outstanding, and it's 76 degrees down here
Yeah, I was
in
waiting for
Florida.
that, man.
Yeah,
I
and
was
we're not
waiting
going
for
to
that.
get that weather.
Look,
That's
this is where you get insights from a panel of therapists about mental health and substance abuse, knowing it's not delivery of therapy services in any way. We had an awesome show last week, episode 340, where we were talking about parenting in the information age. And it was such a involved conversation. I don't know, Casey, you were here. We're not going to have Victoria, by the way, or she might be able to pop in. It's undetermined. But I don't know, Casey, our conversation got through about 1/8 of the content we tried to do, right?
yeah.
Last week.
Yeah, I don't think it covered, just about it just scratched the surface, I would say.
There's so much when we're looking at the information age, and I'm still ever presently shocked, John, at how much there is in the way that affects our life. But I got the book out Through a Therapist's Eyes, Re-Understanding Emotions and Becoming Your Best Self. Somebody actually caught that somewhere in Great Britain, and I'm having a dialogue. I'm just beginning dialogue, but we're going to have an awesome guest that is an amazing topic, and he happened to catch that book. So you know who you are. Can't make it public yet. We haven't really talked yet, but I have some cool ideas with this guy that we may track, and we'll see what develops. But stay tuned because we're always trying to get fun new things. Subscribe, click, do your job. Okay, please help us. We do our job by creating this content. It's free for you, and your job is to help us to get found more. So we do have a new YouTube subscriber, Mr. Nick Chamberlain, who has joined us. And I have just made an acquaintance with Mr. Chamberlain, and so stay tuned as well. There might be some new things as well
Yeah.
with Nick. So I'm kind of excited about that. Sorry to be cryptic, but we'll see what happens and develops.
Well,
Again,
that is
stay
a
tuned.
very regal name,
Oh,
Chamberlain.
regal. We like
Regal, yes, a
regality.
very noble name.
John, how many stars they got to give us?
Oh, they got to give us 5 stars, 5 stars all the way, and it helps us rise to the top, and so that we get seen, and it makes those algorithms magic happen for us. So
It's very important.
yeah, it's
Click
very
the
important. I
subscribe,
mean, you
click
got to
the little
like it.
bells.
I mean, you got to like it,
Well,
right?
that's true. You can't
That's
lie,
right.
right? You can't lie. Contact at throughatherapisteyes.com is a great way to interact with us. We've gotten some comments on YouTube. We're a little bit backed up with that. We need to get on to it. Neil's going to coach me up on finding them because I didn't see them, so I apologize in not having found them. And then throughatherapisteyes.com is actually where you can get old podcasts that are really still highly valid. I refer clients to our shows all the time because it speaks to a lot of content that we develop and what we do in our therapy offices. Also, I'll tell you what, Casey, I apologize. You've been here back, for a month, and I have not done the job of telling them how people can find you to do therapy. So we're
Yeah.
all at Metrolina Psychotherapy Associates, which, by the way, I haven't done a good job either. If you're in North Carolina and you want therapy, you can contact us. We're active therapists. We
Yeah.
do it all day long. We're at 704 5. No, that was almost my cell phone number. That would be
Seven,
bad.
yeah.
That would be bad. Don't call that one. Call Metrolina Psychotherapy Associates at 704-461-8253. Casey, how do people find you, babe?
So there are a couple different ways. The first way is to give me a call at 980-858-5413. Or if you just go to Casey, Kasie, morgancounseling.com, it will take you to my website and you can look and, explore to see if it looks like I would be a good therapeutic fit for you. And I am right now virtual only. But in the future we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we need to see what happens. I'm gonna prod you along, John. She's the best of all of us, wouldn't you say?
I would say so.
I mean,
Absolutely.
Almost.
let's be honest.
Yeah.
We got to be honest. We're genuine on this show.
Thank you.
So yeah, look us up. Now listen, we believe that mental health and substance abuse is primarily important in our lives, and so it's becoming even more and more important as we go along in this world. And we've identified it more, and so we believe this is important in this content here for all of us. So our endeavor is to figure this thing out together, the human emotional experience. Said it backwards, but it got to be fresh, right?
Right.
That's right.
They're like, yeah, Chris, you just covered up a screw up, but that's okay. Shall we get into the show? Shall we get into the stuff? The questions that we had last week were still on board. How has the information age changed? And what does it mean to be a parent? Secondly, are children today receiving too much information before they have the ability to attain and manage and have this emotional structure to process it? The answer to that, honestly, is Casey.
Yes.
Yeah. Thirdly, how do parents regulate themselves emotionally while raising children in a nonstop digital world? And I think that that's something that we're definitely going to cover today because, listen, parents out there, we like to protect kids, right? We we like to make sure kids can function and manage all of this information,
Hmm.
coming at them. And one of the big segments here today needs to be for sure. What about us? You know, are we really regulated with all this? Because as I have said, this is humanity's greatest challenge, the rapid change of progression in technology. And I
Mhm.
don't think we're handling it well. But more on that in a little bit. So, did we cover all the front end stuff? Where did we leave off? We left off, I think, just getting through a little bit of section 2. My thing here is not. Somebody save me. Where did we leave off? Because
The
I'm already
Yeah,
emotional cost. I'm sorry.
go ahead.
What's that, Casey? Where did
No,
we leave
no,
off?
Casey. Yeah.
Yeah, really, we had just kind of bridged from segment one to segment two, and we were talking about and kind of left it with the questions last time that we got to, and I think you were starting on the isolating parts of technology,
Okay.
and yeah, so I think we really are just bridging from segment one to segment two.
And the big thing here that we were trying to get at is this line that I think is a poignant line, really, and it says kids know things they can't feel safely,
Mm.
right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Hmm.
we're getting exposed ourselves to all sorts of things that we almost don't make choices about. And that's by clicking and scrolling and
Hmm.
moving and posting and engaging and even telephones now. You get inundated with texts and people that are reaching out to you, elderly folks with fraud and romance and dating apps. It goes on with all of the things that we're getting exposed to. And I tell you what, kids actually are as well. And so they know a lot more because they've been exposed to a lot more at their age, whatever age it is, than we ever thought about being. John, you and I, for sure,
Hmm.
right? I mean,
Right.
Casey, you as well, but you know, Victoria being younger, she really experienced a lot of that in the last 20 years. It's just exploded, but they're not able to feel safety with all of those things that they don't even know they're being exposed to. We won't even talk about porn and all the different dramatic things with sex trafficking and things that people are getting caught up in foster homes and there's just a lot. So they know a lot, but they can't be safe with it. And our goal is to help us be safe and facilitating ourselves, and then helping the kids kind of grow their resiliency and their ability to, unfortunately, deal with adult content. Is that even possible? But that's kind of our
Hmm.
goal, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I think what we often equivocate safety with is control, and so that's where it can get blurry, right? Like sometimes we think of it as if we can control the content, if we can control like the usage, if we can control all the elements around usage, then we're cutting it off at the pass. And what we're neglecting is to see the differences between controlling what we might talk about in a little bit, which is the behavior of it versus the emotional outpouring of it. And I think that that is the key difference in some of the things that I know that I see even in my own parenting experience with an 18-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 12-year-old that access the internet regularly on their phones, and then my 10-year-old who thinks she has some type of access.
And what kind of access does she actually have? Trick
Like
question.
she can just like I don't know. I like there's like a like kids messenger, like we have approved things with other parents and then she can message her friends on that. That's about it. So, but
I'm
but
gonna
yeah.
be bold
Mhm.
in in this moment. And I promised last time I'm gonna be bold about something. Hopefully that comes up in a little bit because I think there's a big statement that I want to make. But this is one of those as well too. We're starting to wrangle with policies and school procedures and you know what we make available and whatnot. And I'll tell you what, I feel like smartphones are gonna start to be needed to be treated like alcohol and cannabis and whatnot.
Mhm.
Like Casey, you just alluded to your kid just having very tamped down access to texting and posting and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I'm really starting to get into a landing spot where I don't think people under the age of 18 need to have smartphones, like at all.
Mhm. So you're thinking in terms of being Australian, like the
Right.
right in
Do you know
Australia
much
they
about that? Speak about that because that's a whole
well
country that has decided
the
this.
whole country and by law, I guess through their their Senate or whatever their form of government. They have states and they have senators, but in Australia, but it's the representatives. They basically have a law now that it's limited to a certain age. I think it might be 16. I may be wrong on that, and maybe Neil can check that as well. But the idea is that no one's on social media until a certain age. And a democracy or representative government can actually do that without being um, totalitarian. It's basically giving some agency to the parents and to the schools so that they have the control of the social media, over social media, what is given to their kids.
You know what? Let's park out here for a second because I just thought of this in my brain as a counterbalance argument to what I just laid out and what John
Mhm.
Australia just explained is doing.
Oh,
I,
go
I
blimey.
do I do have what did you say?
Go blimey.
Go blimey. Go
Yeah.
blimey, young man. So yeah, 16, 18, no smartphones. Okay, that's one thing. But then I am kind of noticing the younger generations that are kind of coming on to their 20s. Like my kids are 24 and 21 right now, right? And they grew up. They're the first cohort in all of humanity that has had their entire life in this space
Mhm.
with rapid technology development.
Hmm.
And what I think I've noticed in kind of real time in a societal macro level thinking that they do all the Snapchats, they get the streaks, they take a picture of their shoe and send it to their friend, crazy weird behavior, silly stuff, dating online. You got kids dating uh boys dating girls in Nevada when they're in South Carolina and Boston, and there's all these different things that kids are doing, and they kind of get to their 20s, 18, they graduate high school and they're kind of like, wait a minute, that stuff's kid stuff. I don't want to do the kid stuff anymore. Also, Facebook is for old people. So they
Hmm.
kind of really put this stuff down. I guess I'm wondering if that is an observation that is correct. Do we hamper that if we limit that? You
I
know?
mean, I don't think it's hampering. I think it's I think it it is almost, earlier in the show you talked about it being like alcohol and things like that. It's almost like the argument of, if we don't, like, when parents come into our office and they say, oh, well, I let them drink if they drink at my house and things like
Yeah,
that, right? Like,
right.
it kind of equivocates to me in that kind of sense, where it's like, oh, well, as long as they're doing it in front, I would rather them do it in front of me and be honest about it than behind my back,
Mhm.
or something like that. And I don't know if you know, but we actually do have some regulation in the United States, and certain states have their own regulatory laws surrounding social media, even in the USA.
Right.
I was just thinking
Well,
that there has always been a problem to a certain extent about have them drink at our house. That was part of my generation. I'm a
Yeah.
boomer, and we had parents that would say, "Okay, you can drink as long as you do it at our house and you can
John's
have
like,
parties."
Actually, our group like did a bunch of quaaludes and stuff,
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Quaaludes.
Quaaludes.
Yeah, I brought that up with one of my clients the other day. So it was because it was the drug of choice. The Quaaludes were my generation. So
It's just, Casey, you say there are some rules, and I'm not worldly traveled enough to know what y'all do around the world internationally, but I think let's move on with our conversation today with the recognition that there is such a rapid pace that we can't keep up with any kind of research studies or thoughtfulness or debate or understanding because it's happening so fast. And I think, Casey, you were talking about that to where, research. I mean, how do you have a longitudinal study on the effect of parenting in the information age when it's only been 15 years? You know?
Yeah. Well, and it's hard too, because correlation is not causation, right? And we know that
Right.
from other research studies. So it's hard to say this happened to this cohort of kids and like with this parenting style and what that looks like, when there might be correlation between events, but there's not necessarily causation, right? Kind of like violence
mhm.
in video games and violence in real life. Like, there's a lot of correlation between events, but there isn't a lot of
Does it cause
information
it?
or studies for
Yeah.
causation in that. And so
Right.
I think that's what is going to make this hard, is because there is correlation between things that we see, but it doesn't necessarily dictate causation. And what I think is
Yeah.
funny, even going back to Australia and places like that, about the age of accountability, what we do know in neurology and what we do know in
Right.
science of the brain is that the frontal lobe is not fully closed until you are 25 years old, right about that
It's
time.
even they're even pushing it to 30 now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so
so,
it's a
yeah. So making an age like 16, 18, 20, I mean, it's still not really addressing when we're at our best
uh-huh.
selves, our best thinking selves.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because I was gonna do that as well because you brought that up last time. We do know a lot about neurology. Now I think we don't know near as much we're gonna know, but we've begun to scratch into that domain of understanding neurology, and developmental neurology is even more probably dynamic as the brain stuff is changing just
I,
with puberty and whatnot.
I was thinking in terms of as former military myself and your son being in that is
Shout out to
being
Adam. Awesome.
Adam quite young going into it, but that may be it's not such a bad thing in the sense of having the reality is that our brains still are developing or haven't developed, and so there might have to be some sort of structure and strictures on and constraints on people. Even the Romans said that you weren't a mature adult until you were after 25.
Yeah, and
So
and here's the thing, to get back to the emotional costs of too much information. That was our segment two. When you don't understand something or you don't have the neurological ability and your brain development well into your 20s, possibly up to 30s. Actually, that's the first I've heard that, guys. Curious about what you mean by that. Not today,
mhm,
but please teach me sometime soon. The idea is, what happens when you don't understand something? Well, you get fearful. You get
yeah,
you get overwhelmed. Your emotions dysregulate because you can't wrap your arms around something, And so that just puts into this chronic, perpetual state of elevated emotion. That
This- Well, I'm just thinking in terms of that maybe there's so much anxiety that's generated with all the new technologies and all of that that people are getting wired to be overly anxious and overly worried, and where people were, let's say, it took several years for people to stop wearing masks after the COVID,
I
and I
still see
saw that
people.
with a lot of young people that do this, and they feel like they
Mm-hmm.
can't trust anything,
Mm-hmm.
or that the world is not a safe place. And in many ways, it isn't. But in other ways, we've over said over
Stated.
stated how dangerous the world is.
I think
And
so, and you have to kind of figure out how to handle that.
yeah,
We move to resiliency. Casey, you're kind of sweet spot, but if you just think about how dysregulating it is to be overrun with stuff, and I feel like we are in a constant chronic state of anxiety, and that creates the loneliness epidemic that we've talked about. And I mean, just before the show, Neil was kind of getting on trying to help me find the YouTube comments and things. And there's a different way to go into it now.
hmm
He's telling me, and I'm like, wait a minute. I was like, okay, you're right, Neil. We're gonna do this later because I got to do the show, and I can't absorb what it is you're telling me.
hmm
He picked up on it and told me like, all right, stop, Chris. We'll do this later because he saw like
hmm
I'm struggling. It's like I was anxious before we got on the show in a way. I was chill with it, okay, but it's just that little edge of stress, that little edge of not knowing, that little constant chronic next thing, more information. It's just, what does that do to a psychology system?
Yeah,
yeah.
it can really overload it and overwhelm it. And I even think back to like the concept of access, which is what we talked about a lot last time, is about the just the sheer amount of access, right? And it's not just access to information, but access to the person. And I think that's something that we do need to address on the show, which is, you know, used to be like when I was in school and stuff, if I needed to tell somebody something, I couldn't text them, obviously, because that wasn't a thing. I would have to write a note, take it to their locker, put it in the slit in their locker, and hope that they get it the next day, or slip it in a textbook or something like that. And then because of long distance calling and it charging a fee every time you make a phone call, and my parents regulating the amount of like times I could call somebody, I may not have the ability to talk to that person, for a couple days to see if they even got the information that I gave them, right? When now I
Yep.
can be a keyboard warrior whenever I want to be, send whatever I want in whatever platform I want. I can make it anonymous if I want to.
Mm.
I can stand 10 toes down on principle and make it my face be shown about it. Or I can create a whole different persona and put myself out there in a different way. And so direct access to people is the other part of this that I think is so anxiety provoking in a lot of ways, because once something is out there, it is free reign for people to comment, look at, destroy, talk
Forever.
forever.
Yeah, I was just thinking that 50 years ago, 55 years ago, I was playing chess via mail, and I think I mentioned that a couple of weeks ago. But I mean, and it took me forever to to play a game of chess.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic.
It was wonderful because you contemplated your moves, you got it all planned out, you started thinking ahead and all of that. And
Oh,
now
John,
we
you and I
just
are finding some app soon. You and I are going to be starting to play chess, brother. You you
oh
you
yeah,
don't know what you just did to me.
oh my God.
Play it by mail. No, play it by mail.
I don't
Yeah,
know
we could
about
do that.
mail. We might need to upgrade it a little bit, but absolutely. All right, we got to move on though. So let me tie something together and move into segment 3 here. We don't have time today. We're not going to be talking about love and logic, but I don't even want. I failed last time of getting all the way through the show without mentioning love and logic. It is my go-to strategy. Is my go-to idea. Episode 15 was the first time that we covered it. Craig and I did eons ago, and you'd have to go to throughatherapisteyes.com to find that particular episode. But you get into the initial love and logic introduction there, and then episode 273 we did a review,
Uh-huh.
and then in 299 we had our whole panel and did a review as well. So we've
Uh-huh.
redone that content a few times because it's so primary to being able to do parenting. And there's a fundamental switch that they identify. And that fundamental switch is something really important here that we're touching on how to interact with your child in this age specifically, because their switch is like not just discipline. Like we all think parenting is synonymous with privilege loss and disciplining our child and spare the rod with spanking and different philosophies that go into that. And discipline is important. Teaching life lessons is what the goal is, and discipline is a part of that. But if you think about your relationship with your child, that's what they highlight. Like
Hmm.
build a relationship with your child so that you can teach them. And the big switch here is that parents are often told to monitor screen time, control what you can control, limit setting, and all of that. And that is good. I'm not downing that. But I want to focus and hone in on how do
They
you
don't
teach.
teach people, they don't teach their children regulation, because if you
Exactly.
do it all,
You stole my thunder. Run with it,
I'm
John.
sorry,
Absolutely.
sorry,
No, no,
no,
no.
no.
Get into it, jaunt. Run, John.
Well, the thing is that you need to teach them how to monitor themselves and have that self-discipline. And so it is step by step. That also means intentionality, and that you just don't give them a tablet when you go through a big box store, and you go shopping, and so they just play on the video or the tablet screen. You teach them times that you actually are involved with the times that they're on screen. You don't you at the same time don't tell them how to all the things they need to know. You allow them to maybe even make some mistakes. Um, so I don't know. Just
100%. First of all, we have music that's very sound lovely. What
oh,
is that?
sorry, that's my
Is that
daughter.
you?
Oh,
Yeah,
I
she
was
wasn't
like, we
supposed to
have a
call.
new theme song.
Yes, baby.
Yeah,
That was like
yeah.
background perfect synchronized
So
It was.
I tried to turn
component
it
there.
off, but um,
John, the thing
anyway,
is teaching emotional digestion. Yes, how they're
yeah.
going to get the information, and how do we teach them to handle the information? But here's the thing:
Decision making.
decision making,
Yeah.
processing, understanding,
Ethical
conceptualizing.
challenges. Yeah.
But here's
I,
the
I'm
thing: what do we need if we're going to teach?
We have to
Or
check ourselves before we wreck ourselves.
simply put, what does that mean, Casey?
Yeah. So as John was talking, I was sitting here thinking, like, uh, one, you're absolutely correct, but two, how often are we dysregulated ourselves, and how often do we use distraction and things like that when we're dysregulated by accessing technology or even just battling everyday objectives? And so, if we, as the parent, are unable to ascertain the skills necessary to regulate, then it's really difficult to then teach our children how to do that. Now, also, it's about progress and not perfection, which I think is great to teach your child as well. But, we've got to move away from the concept of, as do as I say, not as I do.
Oh
We
boy.
actually have to do and do. We've got to
uh,
move away from that concept. And the reason is because our kids, one, can see right through that logic. They can see right through the logic,
Yeah.
and they see right through that screen. And the reason why they see right through it is because they are keen observers of your life, whether you realize it or not, whether they have a tablet or something in front of their face or not. They are keen observers of your life. And so when they see you unable to effectively manage stress and big emotions and things that come up in life, and they see you check out and they see you use distraction techniques that are not always healthy, or they see you having to do something to co-regulate with yourself because using your own skills is not sufficient, then they understand it that way. So when you go and talk to them about, you want to sit down and talk to them about, regulating their emotions and regulating their feelings and what to do when they have big feelings, but they hear you and like maybe your partner screaming at each other. It's not making sense.
Right.
I got a question for you. This is as therapist, and maybe other therapists that may be listening online or or seeing this on YouTube, is that I'm actually working with a younger client, um, um, a younger adult, and had never learned that it's wrong to it's to do the consequences of being able. He said I can never do well in school unless I cheated, and I don't know how not to cheat.
Hmm.
Wow.
And how do I, as an old fogey that I am, would be able to help guide him and help him understand that, because it's ethics. It's also I'm kind of wondering about the parents. You know, why has that not been inculcated in the child? And yet, without sounding judgmental, because I'm a counselor and I have to put that on this my uh, Presbyterian minister uh, 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 cloak off in
Yeah,
being a
I want to jump
counselor.
on this, John, because I get it's a wonderful question, a wonderful thought, and I think you as a grandparent figure in therapy, right? We take on different transference roles. Sometimes it's a brother, sometimes it's a father, sometimes it's a grandfather,
Hmm.
or in your
Yeah, it
case,
is countertransference on my part. Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, counter transfers too. But what I'm getting at is when we take on those transference roles and whatnot, like I think that we can join with what somebody's struggling with. And
Uh-huh.
I was really feeling what you're saying because my son struggled with dyslexia and ADHD. He just
Yeah.
couldn't get the ABCs and one, two, threes, and I have the marks in my dining room table still to this day right over there that will prove it. And
Uh-huh.
so it's really joining with that struggle and then creating
Uh-huh.
hope with your child or your
Hmm.
grandchild or your
Hmm.
client in our case, to find a way to battle that. And I would use the example and have with my son a special forces operator that I worked with
Hmm.
that had dyslexia also and
Hmm.
learned and read and fought and pushed to develop those skills
Hmm.
because he had a deficit,
And
right?
it's easier now to just to do the easy way out and use
Yeah.
AI and that sort of
Yeah.
thing. Whereas 40 years ago, yeah, you're dyslexic and Nelson Rockefeller, who was governor of New York, but also vice president during the time of Gerald Ford, he was severely dyslexic. I mean, it was, and he had to have special tutoring throughout his uh, education. Brilliant man, but we don't. He didn't have those advantages, and so, but my client has access to tools that would help him not learn it and internalize it.
Yeah.
And
It's a double-edged sword because there's also technology that can help, I mean,
mhm. and,
hold your hand
and
if you don't rely on it too much. It's a gosh, it's just such a conundrum.
yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on with the parents are just related too. I promised a bold statement. Here it comes. You ready, Casey?
I'm
Okay,
I'm just
I'm ready
chomping
too.
at the bit.
Jumping. She's jumping. I have had this thought for a while, and I have not really revealed it, um, even to family or friends or you know much of anybody. Certainly not on the platform, and not in my
Uh-huh.
therapy office either. This is like a first for me. But darn it, I'm gonna make a statement because I felt that it's been this way for a while, and it's just proliferated to where it's just absolutely almost more normalized, rather expected that you use these technology things, Neil or John, like you had just said.
Uh-huh.
You use them because they're available, and what effect does it have? The specific thing that I'm talking about right now is the dots on your phone. Okay? Parents want to protect their kids and they put their kid on their phone as a dot and follow them everywhere they go. They track their speed on their driving, they track their locations, they track what they're doing when they're doing it. I think it's going to get to a point where you can turn on a microphone and listen in. That might sound crazy to you, but I don't think we're that far away from that. And I'm going to make the bold statement that I think we need to stop that. Hard, full stop. I don't think that we need to follow our kids in that way, trying to protect them when we can't. And it does nothing but create anxiety for our parenting, so that we're sitting there checking and checking and checking and checking. The entire prom night, a parent probably looks at their phone and their dot more than 50 times over that 4 or 5 hours. And I don't think that's good. I know I'm going to get creamed. I mean, I
No,
welcome you to come to contact at throughatherapisteyes.com. Email me. Let's get a
okay.
dialogue going, right?
Well,
That's my drop,
I
John.
okay, and I would agree, and I would say that that is wonderful. I got to tell you, the first time I went to a fraternity party, um, in my first year
Wait
in
a minute. Are you
college,
wholeheartedly agreeing?
I'm wholeheartedly agreeing.
Wow.
And
Okay.
and so I came back. I'm sorry, but I'm an old fogey. Okay, so I've used that term before, but I got so wasted and I threw up and I put a Gideon Bible on my chest and I said never, never again. And I came home
Oh
um,
man.
and went to the house and I smelled and reeked of alcohol. It's just awful, terrible. I was underage, okay?
Hmm.
And at the same time, my mom and dad didn't say a thing to me because they knew I suffered enough. And they did not accept it. And yet at the same time, they accepted me and they loved me. And that was, and I never had a problem after that. And
Wow.
so
Right.
they didn't have a, they didn't, they gave me enough rope that I went too far and I regretted it. And then I came back. And so I stayed within that constraint and those parameters. We need to be able to develop that. We need to be able to trust our kids and have that
Hmm.
at least on some level. And then also to let go of our anxiety
As parents.
as parents, you know, because we're going to screw up no matter what we do. And yet at the same time, there's grace in the fact that we can learn from those mistakes. How else are the kids going to learn regulation and to regulate themselves? And that so that calls on parents. It behooves parents to have some self-regulation.
Well, John, I must say I'm a little bit surprised and I'm actually relieved because honestly, I feel like I just went out on a freaking huge limb. Go ahead, crush me,
Yeah.
Casey.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that I completely disagree. I definitely don't wholeheartedly agree, right? I think it's a lofty assumption to say that having dots on the phone or Life 360, which is what my family utilizes, that it is an effort of, trying to, you know where everybody is all the time and things like that, and that it's completely anxiety based. Now, please hear me. I do know people that watch Life 360 or Dots like it's Netflix. Like I do know people like that. That
Yeah.
literally, like, if it
Hmm.
had a monthly subscription, they pay the monthly subscription and they will like get the premium package. I do know people like that for sure. And I would say that it evokes in some people that sense of fear or a false sense of security. I also want to make the statement that things are going to happen whether they're on your dots or your Live 360 or not. Things are still going to happen, right? I think the difference for me, and maybe it is my age, and maybe it is things that we've had exposure to, and maybe it is things that are publicized now that, the content that we see. But there is so much more now going on with things like sexual exploitation, trafficking, things like that, that sometimes I think
Mm-hmm.
it is beneficial that at least if you know where a device is in the vicinity, of where a person is located, it is beneficial when it comes to, you know, ultimate realm, like macro level types of safety things. I don't think it's going to prevent bad things from happening. I think it can drum up anxiety. I don't think it's going to prevent, like car crashes or anything like that, because that's still going to happen.
Right.
But the fact is that in those moments of clarity and peace of mind in this day and age, when there are so many people who have access to your children, whether you like it, not, or control it, I think this is an added layer of protection in some way.
Okay. Yeah,
Well,
just one
hold
thing,
on,
and
John.
that
Hold on, John. Neil popped on the screen, and that tells me that Neil's got words for me.
So I have two things about this. One, I agree with you, Chris. Uh, with I don't think you need it. But here's a question I have for you, because someone in my family, they have it on their phone and their kids' phones. How do you feel about the kids having access to the parents knowing where the parents are at all time to even it out, right? I don't agree with that. I think that as a parent, there's a difference in that versus the children having that same access. So that's one question. Like, do you think as a parent you have to open up that door so your kids can see everything you're doing? Kind of weird. The other part that I had happen with my oldest kid is
Can
he
we
was
address that real quick though before I
yeah, go
forget
ahead.
it? Because it's a really interesting thing, and I guess I'd like John and Casey to chime in on that too, Neil, because yeah, there's a different power structure between a parent who is in an authority position, and to reverse that is definitely a little bit weird. But it has the same type of thing, like we have separation anxiety as a diagnosis. Now, it would seem that it would help a child to see where their mom or dad is to calm them, but it doesn't calm them. We know with separation anxiety, 5 minutes after the parent leaves, they regulate, they
how,
settle down. So it's not helpful in my.
do you think that maybe this? How old are you thinking in terms of separation anxiety for kids,
I mean, it could
Chris?
be into young adulthood. I mean, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah. But I'm just also thinking that part of this and part of becoming an adult and growing into adulthood in terms of with all the rights and responsibilities. We think about the rights, but we don't think about the responsibilities as much. Is that they have to learn how to to maybe make it on for the first time that they're not uh, they're staying overnight or they're um, that they need to know that they can call on their parents and be able to contact them, but that the parents aren't going to let them can't come and get them all the time.
Okay, so we
So
got to be a little short here. I'm aware of time. We're fine with time, but I know we could talk about this for the next
yeah,
hour. Okay, Casey, comment, and then we'll go to Neil for your second part.
Yeah, I think in this territory, I think we're bordering on some hypocrisy, and this is why I say that. Like in one sense, we're saying in the sense of Life 360, if you're going to have it, then don't model it, But I don't agree with that. I think that it first and foremost, as an adult, I can venture to any place that I want to venture to as an adult. I'm
hmm
making adult decisions. If my children see me going somewhere, like so be it. I don't think it's a have to situation where they have to know where I'm at all the time, but I
hmm
definitely think that I want to model that I will be where I say I'm going to be. And if I say I'm going to be at home,
exactly,
I'm going to be at home.
exactly. You're not going to be at the strip club.
Right. And if I am a how old am I? 43-year-old adult that is enjoying some entertainment, Like and at that point, like we can have a responsibility conversation. But if and it's not doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing, but I think if I'm going to go in, I'm going all in. If I'm going to allow access to my children to be able to utilize technology for their personal use, I am modeling what that looks like at every facet and aspect of the uses of technology.
Yeah.
It's like
Dynamic, isn't it? We're gonna have to be short, guys. Neil's got another one.
So last thing with Life 360, because this is fun. My kid was driving around a bunch of his brother's friends at one point, and at some point, Life 360 registered him going 91 down Highway 74 in Gastonia.
Yeah.
One of the kids' moms freaked out. Here's the thing: two other kids had Life 360. They came back and said, he never went above 55. But because this one time Life 360 registered the speed wrong, the parent took that as gospel. I mean, how much strain has this caused on parents because they're relying on technology that is not
But there's also not
trustworthy?
having a essential trust in your kiddo.
Yeah, but
And
it's still, you're putting trust in a technology that's not. I mean, like I said, with a lot of the stuff you look at, it becomes that gospel that these parents are looking at. It's just, it gets very frustrating when you look at those. And as someone who works in technology all the time, I've seen technology screw up more than I've seen it work.
mhm.
So
Wow. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of stuff when it comes down to it that it goes back to John. You said, trust your kids, trust what's going on, be aware of it. I'll use Find My Phone every once in a while with my youngest kid because I don't know where he's going. I'll just do a quick ping to see where he is if I need to. I've done it like 3 times at like total. I don't
And
need to
that's
know
the way I
exactly
use
where
it
he
with
is.
my 24-year-old right now, Neil. But it's an interesting thing too because the dot says you're here, but you're actually like across the street in a completely different
Oh,
store.
dear Helene, it
Right.
freaked out my kid's friend's mom because they said he was in Asheville at some point during Helene because he pinged and that's where the tower was. And her that caused so much anxiety for the mom because she didn't know where her son was for like 3 days or something,
Hmm.
thinking he's Lord knows where. So you just have to be careful with how you as a
Technology, yeah,
yeah
Backfires.
use the
yeah.
tools wisely and
Backfires.
figure out how it works with your system and go from there.
Okay,
Trust
we
the
need to move
force
on. I know
loops.
we want to stay here, but we need to move on. I want to move us to, again, parents as emotional containments, not control mechanisms. So think about this line, okay? Children don't learn regulation from rules, they learn regulation from regulated adults. And
Mm.
Casey, I think that's what you were really hitting on. They are not going to learn from a bedtime. They are going to learn from the deep conversations that you have about life decisions and responsibilities and the methods of decision making that consider time the next day. They
Yeah.
need to learn from us, not from rules.
As Uncle Ben said in Spider-Man, he says, "With great power comes great responsibility."
Love it.
So,
Love it. Yeah, I mean, I think that's such a switch. That's why I mentioned love and logic because we're trying to switch parenting mindset from just disciplining, just creating limits, just creating consequences, and instead focus on your relationship. Focus on, John, you talked about trust. That's beautiful.
uh-huh.
Building rapport and the ability to talk about sex, to talk about drugs, to talk about violence, to talk about fighting, to talk about school, to talk about career choices, to talk about religion, to talk about God or Yahweh or Buddhist traditions. I mean, we need to get that relationship built. And I wonder if information technology is pulling us apart from that very thing that kids need to learn from, the relationship and our own regulation. Sound crazy?
Yeah. No.
I mean, I
Was
think
there a
that's our
question in
task.
there?
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
What'd you say, Casey?
I said, was there a question in there?
No, there's a statement, man.
Okay, I didn't hear anything.
It's a statement, and you know the job of parenting is not to block information. It's to slow it down, to contextualize it, to emotionally translate it, to understand it with. To talk. I mean, look, I love this show and this platform, the human emotional experience, which we endeavor to figure out together. I don't just create those words at the beginning of the show for nothing. You know, how much are we figuring this thing out? My kid's going to get into dating, and I'm afraid he's not going to talk to me about it at all. And I really hope that he does. Right?
Yeah.
Have I built that relationship that he can come to me and talk? Now I think I have, and he's told me probably a little bit stuff I don't want to hear. Love you, Aaron, but you know, but that's okay, right? How do we
Yeah.
manage that? Can we change our mindset in what our job is as a parent? There, I did it again, Casey. I stopped, and there's no to me. demonstrative question. It's just
Yeah, you just said, can we
not.
change our mindset? And and what I do think is that what we're where we want to start from is really focusing on ourselves. Like focus on yourself first, right? I'm a parent. I'm focusing on myself. What are the aspects of my own regulation process that could use some tweaking, right? Like when I start from that place and I think about what it is that I even do to get myself regulated, if I don't have adequate responses to that question, then I do need to start there because I am going to be trying to implement something with my children in our relationship that I don't even do myself. And so you want it to be authentic, right? You want to have authenticity around things that can be helpful. If I think them talking to me is helpful, who are the other adults that I talk to that are helpful? You know, if I think being able to have a reflective practice like journaling is helpful, do I journal? You
Yeah.
know, am I doing something that is assistive that can be an option that my children observe me doing on a regular basis? You know,
Mhm.
like
I
just less than an hour ago, I had a conversation with my daughter about something going on in her life. And the first thing she told me, she said, Mom, she said, last night I prayed through it. And the reason why she says that is not just because I'm just like out here killing it religiously, but because one of the constant pillars of my life is when I encounter an issue and my kids ask me, what do you do when you encounter an issue? I pray through it. And
Yeah,
so that becomes a skill for her.
but Casey, the other thing is you talked about being a hypocrite and people hypocrisy.
Yeah,
You're being authentic. That's genuineness on your part, and you're doing that as a modeling. And the kids are raised in that milieu, that environment, and so that they know that that's an acceptable and loving and caring and thoughtful way of approaching it. I believe in the power of prayer, and but let's say someone is not in terms of practicing their faith, but they can also be reflective and
right.
intentional, and so the kids will learn how to do that, and they can step back and be able to say, okay, I'm going to be reflective, and I'm going to be able to make a decision, and I'm going to do it slowly, slow it down, and contextualize it as it's it's said here and
John,
said
they're
before.
watching us. They're
Yeah,
watching us.
everything you do.
Hmm.
They're looking at what we're acting on. They're looking at like what we fake.
Hmm.
One of the things I would add to this little element here is I love to be honest with my kids, and it was throughout. Like I'll tell them, like if I don't know something, I'm going to tell you. I don't really know the answer to
Uh-huh.
this. I'll tell you then what I think, and we'll talk about it. And I'll tell you what I think I know also. And then they can begin to trust. Like when I'm speaking on something, I'm not just making it up and flippantly throwing something out there or just flowing an ideal, like you said, Casey, do as I say, not as I do. I'm saying I have no idea the answer to this. Let's figure it out because this is a tough one, you
And
know?
you're assuming, and by that, you're saying, I think your feedback is important.
Right.
And even though I'm the parent, the thing is, we're dialoguing and we're learning from each other.
Particularly as we're talking about parenting teens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Casey, I don't think parenting stops at 25. You
No.
know, you're
I'm still
Yeah.
being parented by my mom. Like that's still
100%.
happening. So, but one thing that I think is really powerful here as we continue on in this discussion is never underestimate the power of an apology with your children. None of us get it right all the
Definitely.
time. None of us regulate correctly, authentically, and intentionally all the time. There
Especially
are
when the Steelers lose.
exactly. Like nobody is allowed to watch Carolina basketball with me. And it's for good reason. And it's for good reason because I literally probably look like I've been possessed by the devil because I just get so angry. And
Does
so
your
I'm
head
not
turn
regulated.
around?
Yes, my head turns around and I like vomit pea soup everywhere. So, but but the truth is that we don't always get it correct. But what we want to do to be restorative and to be reparative in an emotionally regulated relationship is that when we do get it wrong, we are not too proud to say, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, question, and this is a personal thing on me. Is it all right if I take a minute for that?
Let's do
Is
that, and
because
then
I
we'll
agree
go
with.
to practical questions.
Okay, I was at a church that was impossible. There were only about 20 out of a 650 member church. There were about 20 members that just were hell bent for leather. They did not like me for whatever reasons, and they let me know all the reasons why. And I was thinking, and I got anxious. I got all tied up in knots, and then I thought about my kids were in high school. How how I act and how my wife and I act will show and model for them um, what it means, let's say, to be, in our case, Christians, a ministerial family, do that with dignity and with uh, uh, equanimity. I'm mispronouncing it, but it was a sense of serenity and calm. We weren't always serene, we weren't always calm, but that was the thing that my kids could see us, and we
Mhm.
modeled that.
Yeah.
And it also allowed us to say, now, when I got angry with this elder, I lost my temper. I'm
Mhm.
sorry that you had to see that or
Mhm.
that I
But
acted
it's
that
real.
way. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
that was
real.
real. That was real.
I think that we attacked this years ago when we tried to help dads understand that they could cry. You
Uh-huh.
could shed a
Yeah.
tear. You can say I don't know. We can be angry and return to serenity. Casey, you said we can be honest with oh my God, what did you say? Uh, um, I forgot what you said a little bit ago. But the genuineness of
Yeah,
not
the
being able to have the
authenticity.
answer
Yeah.
and apologies. That's right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. So yeah, let's move to a new section that we're creating. I tell you, man, I'm resisting, John. I want to do a part three here, but we really hit
Okay.
this, I think, pretty well. I think we hit a lot of the
Uh-huh.
things, hopefully, to get your brains to changing course a little bit, which is what we do as a therapist with these practical questions. We're thinking about you, the listener, and we're talking to you when we do this. I'm going to take number four, and I'm going to say the question that I would like you, the listener to this show, to think about is what we were talking about with your child's behavior, right? Like, are you reacting to the behavior bait, right? I
Mhm.
got baited when I was a
Uh-huh.
parent to younger kids, and they would look at me and they would say, "Yes, sir," and they would salute me in a sarcastic way, and I mean, it would
Mhm.
totally get me going. So are you reacting to the behavior, or are you responding to their emotional state? Are you getting in there with them in the real moment, in the real way where they're at? Like an adage of social work is that you join the client where they are. So are you able, you the listener, able to join the emotional state of your child? That's a practical question that we're asking you to think about. We got number five. John, you want to take it, or Casey?
Casey,
Casey,
where's
Yeah.
number five at? Okay, there you
Yeah.
go.
So
Got it.
practical question number five. Yeah. So another question we want to ask you, the listener, is to really kind of get in here and think about this. What emotions does my child see me struggling with the most? Again, this is that whole self reflection piece, you know? Before we can model, we must master. And I don't mean perfecting, I mean master in terms of when I'm not feeling my best self, what am I doing to help myself in those moments? As we said before, children are going to see it, they're going to see how we process, and they're going to see how we move through it. Sometimes what we want to do is we want to focus in on ourselves about how is it that I'm addressing my anxiety, my impatience, my frustration, my anger. Am I constantly doom scrolling on my phone? Am I constantly checking out in my family and playing a game? Or am I constantly doing the things, the exact things even, that I constantly are concerned about with or talk to my children about? And if the answer to any of those questions is yes, that I'm doing what I'm asking my children not to do, then it is time to take some introspection here and to really reflect on what are my coping mechanisms. And if you're not having them, if you're not finding them, it's okay. It's okay to not know how to do it right now. But try to learn some steps, some techniques. Try to talk to somebody else about it. And if necessary, go and get yourself a therapist.
So the question is, what emotions does my child see me struggling with the most? John, I'm going to say let's jump to number 8 and
Okay.
do that one instead.
Okay. 7, 8. Um, when my child is overwhelmed, do I try to fix the problem or soothe the nervous system first? And that's one of the things that we dads end up doing a lot of times is to try to fix the problem. And there's a great line from RoboCop where one of the people who's getting shot, his partner is shot, and she's like, "I'm hurt real bad," and he says, as Murphy, the cop who has some awareness of himself, the RoboCop, well, they can fix anything. They can always fix it. Well, they can't all the time. In real life, that's fantasy, but in real life, if you try to fix the problem and you're cutting them off for their own emotional development, their own maturation as adults, or one day to become adults. Um, and so, say that you want to encourage independence in your children, but the better thing I think, and I'm not supposed to put values on these things, but it's the interdependence that we have, that you can go and rely on wise people, not just your parents, but let's say a trusted teacher or a guidance counselor, or a school counselor, or a clergyman, or somebody that is safe, that you can rely on, a coach, and be able to rely and get some feedback from them. And so you would learn how to seek wisdom where it is. And so that maybe they will be overwhelmed and they're at school and they've been ostracized and bullied at school, that they can find some support there, and an adult help there in that school. I don't know if I'm making sense or not,
No,
but
you're making perfect sense. So again, John is asking you, the listener, right now. He's asking
mhm.
you, when your child is overwhelmed, right? Do you try to just fix the problem? Is that what you do? Or when your child is overwhelmed and whatnot, do you switch and try to soothe the nervous system and
Yeah.
self-regulate with them, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Again, this is a new segment that we're doing. We're playing around with it to speak directly to you here towards the end after we presented a lot of information to get you really to join with us and really be in the moment to decide how do we conquer this? What a big topic. I mean, like I
Uh-huh.
said, I think that we did a good job trying to get to this big topic tonight in an hour. We'll be revisiting this as we go along 2026. But Neil, we're ready, man. I think that we're ready to go to battle again. I added in the spreadsheet that we got a little tally section. So right now we got
Oh
Casey with
no.
No,
one.
Chris. No, Chris. You can't keep a tally.
Oh,
If
we can't keep a
if
tally.
nope, nope. Don't mess with my spreadsheet. It will
Oh,
be a surprise at the end of the year. We won't
oh,
know. Keep it
I'm gonna
fair.
miss that meeting.
Don't
So
don't don't mess with my sheet.
I'm
this
sorry,
is
Neil. I added something I thought was cool. I'm being overrun. I have emotions about it, but Casey, I'm going to self regulate. I'm okay. I thought it was a good idea, Neil, but I will divulge. I will let go. It is all your spreadsheet, and I apologize publicly for adding an element.
Well, I just want to keep it fair. I don't want to know where the tally is. I just want to every week I want to be unbiased. I just want to know what's going on because I don't want someone to say, "Well, you knew that Casey was in the lead, and so you started giving it to Chris," or John's.
Exactly.
I want to keep
well,
it
John's not
unbiased.
going to
I
be
want
the
to.
first. I can't be succinct if my life depended on it. So
All right, here we go. We got the shrink wrap up to wrap up our episode today, and this is a friendly, John. It's friendly
All right.
competition. That's all. Where
Okay.
we kind of give a little review.
I'm
We
7 years old again, so
we
that's
give a synopsis of the show, and then Neil gets to judge who gets the win for the episode. So, I guess Neil, Casey, John needs to recover from all this. We're going to give him a moment to
okay.
regulate, to settle down. You want to go first, or shall
Sure,
I?
I can go first. So, this is what I really want you to think about as the listener and as someone that I think can really benefit from this information. Every time a child comes to you, or your child comes to you, or even if it's a child that you care for in some capacity, when they say something out loud, or if they have a behavior that is communicative that something is going on, whether it's from accessing too much information through technology or things like that, the first step is I want you to think about it as if they are directly speaking to you and saying, I don't need you to fix this. I need you to feel this. And I think if you filter through that information in that way, you ultimately will be able to regulate yourself and help regulate with them in an interdependent fashion to help them through the experience.
I'd like to
Yeah.
build on that just a little bit, just add to it, because she's built a cathedral with words right there, and I'm just going to add my little wing of chapel on this, and that is that you approach this with humility and genuineness and authenticity as a parent, and that you have been given the most precious gift possible, and that is your child, your children, and you have there's all that potential and all that future in them. You don't put your stuff into it, you make it a safe place for them to grow and to grow the way they are supposed to grow, and their natural way, and yet you give that presence of yourself to nurture them, to help them in that process. And so uh, you give them that emotional security that Casey talked about. You give them that spiritual security. You give them that sense of your being there, that they can rely on you, even if you're across the globe. They know that their parent, is with them in heart, mind, and soul.
All right. My wrap up listening to this and preparing for the show, part one, part two, it kind of goes along the lines of my faith and hope for us and humanity. I think that we can be very susceptible to fear. And as one president of the United States once proclaimed, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. And I think there's an overwhelm and a learning, and I have faith in humanity. I really do, especially our youth. I feel like we need to be genuine and look towards our youth to help us with what is new to us and actually familiar to them so that we can truly figure this thing out together. The human emotional experience in the information age and all the dynamicism that comes with that. We can do this. We don't have to be fearful. I think that we need to be cautious and aware and lead ourselves to prudence, prudent decisions, prudent behavior. And I think that we got to give ourselves some slack because this is all very new, very important. We take it seriously, but it is very doable.
Hmm?
And I have great faith in you as a parent. We're doing an episode on parenting. Know that you're enough. Know that you can do this. And let's figure it out together.
No, definitely.
Mm.
Man, I love these wrap ups. They're fantastic. I think today's, based on what was said from the show, based on what was done, I have to give this one to the Pope. The Pope's, I think, really hit it. Yeah, I know he expounded on Casey's, but like what he brought to the table with that wrap up, I think is really important for all of us to
Hmm.
hear. So I think today it's the Pope's.
All
Love that.
Thank you.
right.
Thank
Love
you.
that, Jonathan. Love it, buddy. Yeah, listen, we love doing this show with you. Tell your friends, subscribe, bring somebody, a parent along to listen to this one because I think this one and the last one is stuff that people can really practically get We hope we're doing a good job for you. So stay tuned. We got some things happening in 2026. John, Casey, survive the storm. Casey, John, revel in the heat.
Yes, I'm going to
Yes.
go while I'm sunning in the beach. I'll think of you all. So,
I
We'll
have
come on over. Oh,
some
she's.
yeah.
What do you got, Casey? Oh, she's got.
toilet paper.
She's got plenty of TP. All right, we're gonna be okay, Casey. We're coming to your house and we're in desperate need. You guys have a great week. Stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you next.